right here in the camp, there's this dead tree. I'm gonna remove that and we can actually use that one as firewood. Putting the chainsaw away just because it's raining a little bit and we're not gonna be using it anymore today. All right, here's a time lapse of me cleaning up this mess and you'll get to see what we use all these logs for tomorrow. That's one of the smokiest fires I've ever had. The whole woods is dark as it's blocking light. Well, that's all of it. That is debris from 2 trees we just cut up. We are keeping the logs for heating in the house next year. And this debris would just become a fire hazard, even more so when it becomes brown. Green, it burns because of all the sap. But when it turns brown, it is a even bigger fire hazard come the winter or come the summertime, especially like the last couple years. Summer always becomes a drought and it's a fire hazard. So this is one small process of cleaning up the forest. Just cut up a few trees every now and then, and eventually the forest will get cleaned up. Because when there's trees toppled down, like in some parts of the forest, so densely, nothing's going to grow back there for a long time. Because anytime a seed from a tree drops, it is just not able to get sunlight. Give this thing a few more minutes and it'll stop smoking. It's just smoking from all the green branches I put in there. Most of that stuff you're seeing is also steam, just because it's so wet. When I first started this fire, it was all dead branches from the bottom of the tree. The branches on the bottom of the tree die because they don't get sunlight, so the tree rejects them. That's why everything that I started off with wasn't smoking. And this is all the tops of the trees. Yep, lost about 47 trees, maybe more, probably definitely more trees that I haven't discovered yet under the toppled ones. That was a big storm December 22nd here in Maine. It's going to take a while to get that stuff cleaned up, but it means free heating for the winter time. Just got to put in the work of getting these logs out. Someone even slowed down on the road to see what all the commotion was about. Smoke is clearing, it's now burning cleaner. I don't think we're going to see any more dense plumes like that start to block out the sun. That was blinding just walking through it. But the smoke wasn't dense enough where you couldn't breathe. Not really. Although I didn't try to be in it for more than a few seconds to grab more branches. The back of that pile wasn't even burning, so I'm gonna have to shift it a few more times. I always like working when it's snowy and damp because my hands are damp and tree sap doesn't stick to them. I just got some snow and scrubbed the majority of it off. If it's dry out and you're touching tree sap, there's no water barrier to keep it from sticking to you. And it's kind of challenging getting it off. This is going to be one of our quicker fires. Usually when I'm out here doing this kind of tree work, I'm doing it for a day or two at a time. The fire is so hot that the next morning you just throw more on and it starts up again. But today is only going to be like an hour-long fire. That's it. This isn't going to burn long. There's not much in there. There's probably not even going to be enough heat to burn the middle of those bigger branches. So those will probably just sit in there and dry out for the next fire. This isn't going to burn much longer. When I'm done with this, I'm going to cut up even more logs. I cut off all the branches from them a few weeks back, but left them. So we'll cut that up before it gets dark. And this is part of my camping video, if you've seen that. I have definitely already posted the camping video if I'm going to be posting this. I just pushed that pile of all those green branches over into the hotter spots, and I'll shift it over again in a few minutes too. Oh, it's finally starting to catch up, it looks like. I just touched some burnt logs and snow really takes off all the ash really good. Alright, that's going to be the rest of the smoky stuff. There's really not any green stuff left. Also, look how small the pile got. All right, we'll revisit this in like an hour once it's calmed down, and anything that fell out I'll throw back in. Before it gets dark, I gotta get some chainsawing done. All right, we got that tree cleaned up pretty quickly. I got all the debris off the ground now. So baby trees, once we're done camping, these can all grow back and fill in that space. Rotten logs I left on the ground. All the little kindling, I saved some of it for the camp, and the rest of it we're gonna burn off. Burn this off. Burn that, burn this pile we accumulated. Those logs will all be saved for next year's indoor heating. That was pretty interesting, the amount of haze that made. So here's the chainsaw cart. I had one log that was going right across here. You can still see it, laid right through the raspberry patch. Went down here through the forest, got all that. Those logs we're going to be using in that camp video. Check that out if you haven't seen that. We'll be doing that tomorrow. Because it's perfect for a camp, I feel. See how they go in opposite directions? I put the stove in there, or I'm going to put the stove in there, in a interesting way. And all these little seedlings here. Some of these are going to be in the tent with me. I'm going to sleep on that bare platform. Why does it slope like that? What's buried there? I don't know, but we're going to sleep on top of that hill, allow for proper drainage. I probably won't even set my bedding up until we have a fire in there a few hours. Get it nice and dry, the floor, get all that dried off. Because this is what's going to hold the tent up, those trees that happen to fall in opposite directions. This one fell a year ago. I cut the end of it off because it went into this place I mow right around the raspberry patch. That other one, I don't know when that fell. The one here fell during that massive storm I talked about. Right there was a big fallen tree. Top of this tree broke off. Just burned that. This is someone else's previous owner's pile of wood. It's a little bit too rotten to really use it. I know some of it looks good, but on the eyes, it all looks good, the part that's here. You just open it up, it's all infested with carpenter ants and stuff. You grab one of them. The bottom and back ends of all those are rotten, despite how the pile looks. So we're going to walk over here now to an active site I have where I'm cutting up a lot of logs. I'm thinking I'm going to buy a electric log splitter from Harbor Freight. They're only $300, and I feel if I get their 2-year warranty, I can just hammer through with that thing. If it happens to break, I can get another one. I just think I just saw a mouse. If we go back 5 seconds or so in the video, a mouse just may have ran into the pile. Maybe a shrew. We have a lot of those. So over there, we have probably 2 cords of firewood cut up so far. I'm going to cut up one more cord today, hopefully before it gets dark. They didn't have one at the store, but I plan on getting a $300 electric log splitter. I'm not going to waste $1,500 on a gas one. I don't need it. Just start up the generator if the power was ever out. But that's why we do it in advance. I have to get all the wood cut right now and ready for the following heating season. Logs, pine typically takes a year to season, but the next heating season starts, what, in 8 months? That'll be ready because I'm going to split it. When it's split, it'll definitely be done in 8 months. And, yeah, we will cut all that up, throw it in a big pile, and put a tarp over it. It can bake all summer. The tarp will actually make it hotter, and it'll season faster. That is burning a lot better now on my way back. If you've seen my video of how I manage my land, you will see some of this stuff. We cleaned up this whole part of the forest. It was just toppled with dead trees. And now all these small ones can grow in, and it can be a nice lush forest. We will work on a bunch of these fallen trees in the background at another time with another trail I have in the back there. I built these trails almost 3 years ago throughout my entire 2 acres of forest, and I purposely made the trails wide enough so these carts can get through here, and I use them like my little own logging trucks. I stack multiple piles throughout the forest, giant pile there, and you see in the background, they go out through the entire woods, maybe 500 more feet down the trail. And whenever I need firewood, I ship all these logs back with the wagon, run them through the log splitter, and throw them right into the fire. Some log piles that are older, I split them because they're already seasoned, and they go right into the fire. This year, that was one problem, mistake I made with the wood stove. Most of my piles aren't covered, so when they come in the house, they go through like a week-long drying process, like spread out one by one along the floor. Next year, they're gonna come in perfectly dry because I know the stove will like that better. This is what I'm cutting up today. See these two fallen trees? These fell during that last storm. This one's disconnected, but I always leave the branches on the bottom. That way you don't have to cut 70%, roll the log, and cut the rest. Because if you hit the ground, your blade is like basically instantly destroyed with a chainsaw. If it hits the ground, it wears it out instantly. But what I do is zip some of the bottom, cut, zip some of the bottom, cut, 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 zip, you know what I mean? I'll show you a time lapse of that. Here is corn because I have trail cameras everywhere and the deer love this. We also have an abundance of flying squirrels at certain times. This is going to heat the house next year. Still see some of the smoke from the fire over there. This was the site of our last burn fire here because we cleaned up all this forest. You couldn't see through here. There was so much debris on the forest floor, but now there's hundreds of baby seedlings. Within a few years, this is going to be looking nice and green. Even though I already use this chainsaw, I always check it when I start another job. You always want to make sure the oil's topped off right here, the bar chain oil, because you don't want to be running it dry or you're going to burn out the chain. In worst case, it could snap and hit you. So in temperatures like today, it's around 40, so I'm using normal stuff. You just saw the orange container. I ran out of the Husqvarna stuff, but here's some more chainsaw bar lubricant. We're using this right now, but keep in mind, if it's below 40, maybe 30 degrees, you want to switch over. I have a container of winter formula that's very loose. Don't want to use it in the summer because it's too loose and it's just going to dribble all over the ground. But in the summer, or I mean the winter, you want to use cold weather because this stuff starts flowing like molasses if it's just a little bit colder and it can't properly lubricate everything. And right here I have this is two-stroke oil gasoline, and that is normal gasoline without the two-stroke oil in it. Because this two-stroke engines, they don't have engine oil, so it lubricates through the fuel. This is a small chainsaw. I'm thinking about getting a 60cc one, which has much larger teeth, so that alone, it can go through logs faster along with extra power. Probably get one of those next year. That would help go through these trees like butter, because this is a little bit slow going. All right, we got that whole thing cleaned up in just over a half an hour. If you saw towards the end, I was slowing down a bit. Yep, I dulling the blade. Here's what happened. This part right here, you can see where it was. Cut it like I was supposed to, rolled it. It had a bunch of dirt frozen to it, and I went through it. That dulled it considerably. Just a little bit of contact with dirt. But this pile of wood here, I would say, realistically, that's maybe a week and a half worth of heating. In the back here, I cut that because that's obviously not going to fit into the fireplace or the log splitter, it being that extra length. I'm only capable of using logs less than 20 inches. That, I did not go down to hit the ground. I kicked it. You see, it's pretty loose, but not ready to break yet. I'm sure we'll get that broken off when I bring it in to process it eventually. All right, it's been about 45 minutes. I came back over to the fire and nothing was going on. So I gathered up everything around the edge, threw it back up top. It briefly started smoking again. Maybe it'll catch back up on its own eventually. We'll just leave it there. If it goes out, then this will be a campfire at some point. I think that's about it for today's video. I'm just going to show you a couple time lapses at the end. And I hope today's video of burning and cutting up a few trees was interesting. Thanks for watching.